Chapter 2. Try Your Luck with Professor Challenger. I always liked McCardle, the crab, old red-headed news editor, and I hoped that he liked me. Of course, Beaumont was the real boss, but he was above and beyond us. We saw him very seldom. And McCardle was his first lieutenant. The old man nodded as I entered the room. Well, Mr. Malone, you seem to be doing very well, he said in his kindly Scottish accent. I thanked him. The article about explosion was excellent. So why did you want to see me? To ask a favor. Do you think, sir, that you could possibly send me on some mission? I would do my best to get you some good copy. What sort of mission, Mr. Malone? Well, sir, anything that had adventure and danger in it. The more difficult it was, the better it would suit me. You seem very anxious to lose your life. To justify my life, sir. Dear me, Mr. Malone, I'm afraid the day for this sort of thing is rather past. There's no room for romance. Wait a bit, though, he added, with a sudden smile. What about exposing a fraud, a modern Munchausen, and making him ridiculous? You could show him as the liar that he is. How does it sound to you? Anything, anywhere, I don't care. McCardle was plunged in thought for some minutes. You seem to have, I suppose, animal magnetism or youthful energy or something. So why should you not try your luck with Professor Challenger? I looked a little startled. Challenger? I cried. Professor Challenger? The famous zoologist? The man who broke the skull of Blundell of the Telegraph? The news editor smiled grimly. Do you mind? Didn't you say it was adventures you wanted? Yes, sir, I answered. I don't suppose he can always be so violent as that. You may have better luck, or more tact in handling him. I really know nothing about him, I said. I only remember his name in connection with the police court proceedings for striking Blundell. I'm not very clear yet why I am to interview this gentleman. What else has he done? He went to South America on an expedition 2 years ago, came back last year, had undoubtedly been to South America, but refused to say exactly where. Began to tell his adventures in a vague way, but then just shut up like an oyster. Something wonderful happened, or the man's a great liar. Had some damaged photographs said to be fakes. Now he attacks anyone who asks questions and kicks reporters downstairs. In my opinion, he's just a maniac with a turn for silence. That's your man, Mr. Malone. Now go. We'll see what you can do. You're big enough to look after yourself. I left the office and entered the Savage Club and found the very man I needed. Tarp Henry, of the stuff of nature, a thin, dry, leathery creature who was full of kindly humanity. What do you know of Professor Challenger? I asked him at once. Challenger? He was the man who came with some story from South America. What story? Oh, it was nonsense about some animals he had discovered. I believe he was retracted since. He gave an interview to Reuters, and there was such a howl that he saw it wouldn't do. There were one or two men who were inclined to take him seriously, but he soon removed them. How? Well, by his rudeness and impossible behavior. There was poor old Wadley of the Zoological Institute. Wadley sent a message. The president of the Zoological Institute presents his compliments to Professor Challenger and would take it as a personal favor if he would do them the honor to come to their next meeting. The answer was unprintable. Good Lord, anything about more Challenger? Well, he's a fanatic. In what particular sphere? There are lots of examples, but the latest is something about Weismann and evolution. He had a fearful row about it in Vienna, I believe. There is a translation of the proceedings at our office. Would you like to have a look? It's just what I need. I have to interview the fellow. I'll go with you now, if it is not too late. Half an hour later, I was seated in the newspaper office with a huge tom in front of me, reading the article Weismann versus Darwin. I couldn't make out a word as if it were written in Chinese, but it was evident that the English professor had spoken in a very aggressive way and had thoroughly annoyed his continental colleagues. I wish you could translate it into English for me, I said pathetically to my friend. Well, it's a translation. All I need is a single good sentence which conveys some sort of definite human idea. Oh, yes, this one will do. I even seem to understand it. I'll copy it out. This shall be my link with the terrible professor. Nothing else I can do? Well, yes, I am going to write to him. If I could use your address, it would give atmosphere. Well, that's my chair and desk. You will find paper there. It took some time, and when it was finished, it wasn't such a bad job. I read it aloud to Harp Henry. Dear Professor Challenger, it said, as a modest student of nature, I have always been interested in your speculations, especially about the differences between Darwin and Weismann. You liar, murmured Tarp Henry. But there's one sentence in your speech at Vienna, namely, I protest strongly against the insufferable and entirely dogmatic assertion that each separate idea is a microcosm possessed of an historical architecture elaborated slowly through the series of generations. With your permission, I would ask the favor of an interview as I don't quite understand it and have certain suggestions which I could only tell you in a personal conversation. With your consent, I trust to have the honor of calling at 11 o'clock the day after tomorrow, Wednesday morning. Yours very truly, Edward D. Malone. But what do you mean to do? Tarp Henry asked. To get there, once I'm in his room, I may see some variance. If he's a sportsman, he will like it. Indeed, a sportsman, chainmail, or an American football suit, that's what you'll need. Well, goodbye. I'll have the answer for you here on Wednesday morning if he ever wants answer you. He is a dangerous character. Perhaps it would be best for you if you never heard from the fellow at all.